All right, let's get started. Hey, guys. So how many of you are here to see if you can get me throttled again with my push notifications? That was fun. My name is Josh Hendricks. I am first, I want to thank the sponsors, because if it weren't for them, then we wouldn't be here, or it would be a very different conference. So thank you to all of our sponsors. I am Josh. Online, you'll find me as Joshua J, OOAJ. I am a dad and a husband. I have 2 cats. Recently, April 1st, turns out it wasn't a joke. I was awarded Microsoft MVP, so for PowerShell. Thank you. I'm a software engineer, a principal engineer at Milestone Systems. We make video surveillance software, and they're helping pay for my trip here. So I want to say thank you to Milestone. And my roots are really in tech support. So I've been with this company since 2006. I started as a support engineer, did some time in IT, did a little bit of management, but primarily I just really like fixing things and solving problems, and I find that I tend to be really good at that. So that's what I do. But I've transitioned from tech support into more of a developer relations, DevOps type role. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Just a little neat fact, I lived in Australia for about 4 years, back in 2013. So that was fun. So I was able to stay with the same company, but live abroad for a while. And then just another fun fact, I have one eye. And it's up to you to decide which one that is. So here's a hint. It's going to be the one that's looking at you when we're talking. So here to talk about notifications. So there's different reasons why you might get a notification. So maybe you have a service that's down, so you're trying to monitor. You might get a notification when that service comes back up. It's important to know that everything's all good. Maybe you're monitoring for certificates, because we all know those expire, and half the time we forget to renew them before they do. Just a little side tip, Posh Acme is a module that you can use to help automate your certificate renewals. PC load letter. Weekly reports. So, and this is a true story. So we had a little issue with one of our cats peeing in the laundry room. I didn't do this with PowerShell. I did this with Home Assistant, but had a little leak detector, moisture sensor, like that you might put next to your washing machine. Get a little push notification when the cat pees in the laundry room. So, all right. So those were the triggers, the reasons why you might get the notification. But there's a whole lot of different notification channels and tons and tons and tons of tools for actually using those channels, different services. So yeah, classic is email. And actually the demos that you'll be seeing here shortly for email, I wrote them for this. I've never actually sent an email with PowerShell until preparing for this session, because I just said I don't care for email. But SMS, so I'll show you, you can actually send text messages using a service. We'll use Twilio, but there's other services you could use too. And then there's push notifications. So if you need to get that on something that isn't necessarily cellular enabled, you can get a mobile device, push notification on your desktop. I won't do a demo on phone call. I didn't have time to figure that out. But you can totally use like the built-in .NET tools in PowerShell to generate text-to-speech and then send that off to a phone call and do phone notifications too from PowerShell. All right, so for email, what we'll demo is a tool or a module called Mailazar. So this was built by Przemysław, and if is there anybody Polish in the audience? All right, well, hopefully I didn't butcher that. I'm sorry. You might know him better as Evotech. So he's got a ton of modules, and one of them is PS Write HTML. So you might have heard of that one. So it's this is a module for working with mail because send mail message works, but is deprecated. It doesn't use, I don't think it uses TLS. I think it might use SSL, but it's out of date and doesn't work with a lot of providers. So this one will work with plain SMTP. It'll use TLS. It'll also work with Microsoft 365, Google Mail. I don't have a demo for SendGrid, but supposedly it works with that too. And it's got some other tools in it too for validating some of the DNS stuff related to managing mail servers, so the DKIM and MX records and all that fun stuff. And I don't have a demo for reading, but you can use this module to read mail from your mail server too. All right, and then we're going to show a little bit of a tool called Twilio. If you haven't heard of that, it's a commercial service that you can use to build communication applications on top of. And I used it for the first time again, setting up the demos for this session, and it was super easy to get started. So you'll see they have just a curl you can copy and paste and everything. There are a couple of modules in the gallery, including one that looks like it was by James Brundage. I have not tested it, and it was a little bit, it hadn't been maintained or updated in a while, so I'm not sure if it still works, but you can check it out. But it's relatively easy. It's a REST call you can use, invoke web request, or REST method. All right, and then we have for push notifications, my tool of choice is pushover. Again, there's lots and lots of tools out there. This one, I am not sponsored by pushover, and it is a tool that you also have to pay for if you want to use it long term, but it's I think it's $5 per platform that you use it on. So if it's a iOS device, you pay for it once, and then you get like 10,000 notifications a month or something. All right. So I have a PowerShell module that we'll use called joshuaj.ps pushover. Their REST API is also fairly easy, so you could also just use their API directly, but I have a module that will show that makes it easy to send push notifications. All right, so another notification type, the dead man switch. So if you don't know, this is a screenshot from the movie Speed. So he's holding a device, and if he gets shot, if he dies, he drops the device, the bomb goes boom, and that's why it's called dead man switch. So it's meant to, is it fail safe? No, that doesn't seem safe. But it's meant, what's that? Fail boom. Yeah, fail boom. So it's meant to, if something stops working, it can't tell you that it stopped working, right? It can't tell you that it failed if somebody unplugged the server. So I'll show you the concept of a dead man switch. There's also some services call it a health check or a ping or what have you. So I use a service called healthchecks.io. I don't use it commercially. Like most of this stuff is all stuff that I do in my home lab because I need to make sure that my DNS stays up. So I use a few different pie holes and everything. Just my wife won't be too happy if that stops working. So got to keep an eye on it. So yeah. So if your script fails to notify the health check service, whichever one you use, then it can notify you that you haven't checked in some configurable amount of time. So you might use that with scheduled tasks, cron jobs. If you have a CI/CD pipeline that maybe runs on a schedule and you want to make sure that it is actually still running, then that could let you know. For example, I think if you have a GitHub repo and you're using GitHub Actions with a cron job, so you just run it once a day to do something, at some point, if you don't update your repo, I think GitHub will stop running your pipeline. So this could let you know that your pipeline hasn't run in a while. And that is the end. Thanks, guys. No, let's go to the code. All right, now make sure that I'm seeing what you're seeing. Yes, thank you for the reminder. Control Shift P. What's that?
What you really want is to type light, because there's a switch to light the option. Do it by SAT. See that one? That one.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Perfect. Again, thank you for the reminder. I want to make sure that you guys can see that. Control Shift, no, Control Alt T. All right, how is that for you in the back? Cool. This file, I don't think is too important. So this is just a quick setup file for the demos, making sure that my, because I've got it. I'm expecting to have a command line tool here in a subfolder, so I'm just checking that, making sure that I have this mailhog tool. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Let's see, installing modules and setting secrets and all that fun stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and run that and hope that it doesn't hang like it did before. There we go. All right, so let's do a little bit of email using a local tool. So I had to look around for a tool that would let me test out sending an email without actually having to go and troubleshoot connecting to Google or Azure or something. So there's a program called Mailhog that I'm going to kick off here. Okay, so it's running in the command line over here, and it has a little web interface. And what this is doing is it's pretending to be a mail server. So a mail server and a tool to actually see the emails that are coming in. So just for doing some local testing, and I'll jump back to the code. So the arguments, I'm just saying, here's bind a local host, port 8025 for the web interface, 1025 for SMTP. You get it. All right. So now let's go ahead and use Mailazar. So the command is send email message, and we just give it our local host address, our SMTP port. We can use any from or to that we want, since it's all local. It's not going to validate. It doesn't require a credential. You could probably configure Mailhog to require a credential. What's the point? All right. So I just ran that. And we can see status true, there's no error, and looks like we're good to go. So if I jump over to the web interface, that's too much. There we go, we got our plain text email, Mailazar. And then we can look at the headers if we want. All right, so that's cool. Let's delete all messages. All right, but what if we want to send HTML? We want a more pretty email to go out. So I have a simple report here that I will open. Okay, and this was created using PS-Write HTML. So just pipe to like out HTML view or something like that. And it's just a list of cameras and the status. And so in the company that I work for, this is something that might be interesting to customers to know, like, oh, which cameras happen to be down on any given day. When you have tens of thousands of them, then that there can be a few at any given time. So let's go ahead and send that report out. Where are we? There it is. So instead of body, we're using HTML, and we're just going to get the content of that file and send it out. So let's highlight that. And here is Mailhog receiving that email. Kind of takes a couple of seconds. There we go. All right, so there's my HTML camera report, and there it is. So it's even has JavaScript working and everything. Now, I'll send the same report using Azure, and in Outlook, I don't get like the interactive JavaScript, and maybe that's a setting that you can change in your security settings in Outlook or something. I don't know, but yeah, we get our report here. We can export to PDF. We can change how many rows we're looking at. So nice interactive, pretty HTML email. Let's try not to delete my code. Cool. All right, so that's for local email testing, but like you might want to actually send an email in production. So let's show you how you can do that. So let's see, this is my setup. So we're going to use Azure first, and I'm using a app registration with a client ID and secret for authentication. Feel free to come at me if that's not a secure way to do it. We could also probably use certificates, and if this was running in Azure, then you could probably use just like federated identity or something. But we're going to use client ID and secret, and I'll show you how to do that. But first, let's just make sure it works. So we're going to get our credential. I'm using the secret management module for storing all my credentials so that hopefully I don't leak them all over the place on YouTube. So there we go. So now I have a credential object. And so my username is my client ID, and then an @ and then the directory ID or the tenant ID. And then the secure string should be the secret. And I'll show you where that gets set up in Azure in a moment. Let's make sure the email goes out. So let me highlight that. There we go. So from, to, subject, body, pretty easy. One of the differences is that we say we use a graph switch, which just says graph equals true, and I'm assuming there's some logic inside the module to change the way that it sends email depending on which provider you're using. And we pass our credential, and then you could also specify a priority if you want to, and we'll hit F8 and send that out. All right, then we get back a PS custom object, status is true, there's no error, so it looks like it's sent. And there it is. So there's my email in Outlook. I just sent it to myself, but in theory, if I had your email address, I could send it to you too. And it's not sent from my laptop, it's sent out of Azure. So you're not dealing with the whole DNS, DKIM, whatever challenges. So that's one of the advantages of using Azure, or we'll also show Google instead of using SMTP, is that the source of that email is actually the cloud that's already trusted by whoever you're sending that email to. Alrighty, and then just to show what that HTML email looks like by default, go ahead and send that out. Get rid of that one. Well, Outlook will tell me when it shows up. There it is. So still has most of the formatting, but some of the interactivity is disabled because, again, I assume JavaScript is disabled in email by default, which is a good idea for security and privacy. All right, so if that HTML report is no good, you could send an attachment instead. So let's go ahead and send myself a copy of the Monad Manifesto. There we go. So again, same pattern, just instead of, or added the attachment parameter with a path to a file that I want to attach. And there's my Monad Manifesto. All right. So that's graph. Now let's, I said I would show you how this looks to set up, because that's the other half of the battle, is outside of PowerShell. You have to actually navigate the cloud service that you're using. So let's jump into Azure here. All right, so I'm in the app registration section. Again, for the people like myself who aren't super familiar with Azure, just type in app registration in the search bar. There it is. And we can jump into all applications. And here's my Mailazar application. So there's the client ID that we used for part of the authentication. There's the directory, the tenant ID, and then for secrets, jump into manage, certificates and secrets, and then just create a new client secret. Give it a name that you can remember, set the expiry, and then remember that that's going to expire in the future. So you'll have to renew it. That's one of the downsides of using client ID and secret there. And then, yeah, you'll get a secret, and you're almost done. The other part is the API permissions. So, see if I can make that a little bit bigger. I think for very basic email notifications, you just need mail read write. There was a note that you might want to include mail.send for emails that have larger attachments. So possibly. I am not a security guru with Azure, so check with your security people. But yeah, you would go into add permission. Here's Microsoft Graph. It's going to be an application permission. And then mail.read write, and you just check the ones you want to add to that app so that it has permission in your environment. And let me find the cancel. There we go. And then I checked this little magic box. It says grant admin consent for, well, before it said for the entire tenant. And then that way it can, now you might not want to do that. You might be a little bit more judicial with your permissions and make sure that it can only send email on behalf of somebody and a very specific person, so that rather than letting the app have permission to read and write everybody's mailboxes, so don't do that. But that's what we did to set up the permissions in Azure. Now let's jump into Google. All right, so with Google, I'm using a couple different ways to authenticate. I was using my personal Google account, and it's using OAuth 2, and then I'm also showing how to use an app password. App passwords are risky, so maybe don't use those with an account that you care about. But let's go ahead and generate a credential. So what just happened there? I got a pop-up to a browser. So what I'm doing is I'm calling connect OAuth Google, and Mailazar in the background is using the SDK from Google to handle the OAuth authentication. So it's running a little local web server for the redirect, and then it's opening a browser for you to do your single sign-on. I'm passing in the client ID and secret from the Google application that I set up, and then the scope. This is already the default value, so you don't need to put it in there, but it's just explicit in my demo here. So you specify the scope for the authentication, and now it's asking me to log into an account. So go ahead and log in. It already has some access. I must have changed something. Make sure you trust Mailazar. Yeah. Okay. There we go. You may close this window. All right, so now we have another credential. So username is my email address, and the password is, who knows? Doesn't matter. All right, so let's go ahead and send an email using Google. So here, instead of using graph equals true, I'm using OAuth equals true, and I'm providing the server address and port. I think the port defaults to 587, and the server you definitely have to put in there. So let's go ahead and see if it works. All right, inspect our output there, status true. Seems like it worked. Let's go to wherever Outlook went. There it is. There's our OAuth email. So yeah, there we go. It came from joshuaj@gmail.com. Easy peasy. So let's take a look at app password. Actually, before we go to app password, let me show you. I showed you Azure. Let me show you Google Cloud. Again, I did this for the sake of this session. So if I did it wrong, hey, at least it works. So you can create a Google developer account for free with your Google account if you have one. And so I have a project here called Mailazar, and I added a, what did I do? Anyway, I went in here to enabled APIs and services. So this is controlling what access this project is going to have to your Google account or your workspace if you have a business account there. So I went into APIs and services, clicked on that little plus to add or enable one, and I just searched Gmail because that seemed logical. There we go, Gmail API. And if it's not enabled already, there will be an enable button. But it's enabled already, so we're good. So I'll go back to APIs and services. And I went to OAuth consent screen. Where are we? There we go. So I added an OAuth option, and there's, this is where you go in and put in the branding. So what pops up, what does the client see when they authenticate with this service? And then if we go to clients, I created a client for Mailazar, and that's what gave me a client ID and secret. And so, hey, look, there's my secret. There you go. And then there's, importantly, the authorized redirect URIs. So what happens is Mailazar is going to open up a browser. It's going to take you to log into your Google account. And in the URL, there will be a redirect URL for Google to send you, the user, after you've successfully authenticated. And that is what passes the authentication token to Mailazar so that it can be you in the terminal. And so we need to tell Google what URLs are allowed to be redirected to. Otherwise, you can do mean things to people. It's going to be a random port, but it doesn't seem to matter if the port's there or not. And it's just localhost. So I put in localhost and 127.0.0.1 just to be safe. But what happens, actually, let's go ahead and delete these. I just intentionally broke my demo, so let's see how that goes. What's that? Hey, yeah, see? I mean, it might have been broken before, but now it's definitely broken. All right, so this is just my password manager asking for a password there. All right. It didn't do a pop-up because I have a cached token that's still valid. All right, so by default, it seems to store the token in your app data directory under credential cache folder. So there's my token. I'm going to just delete that, and then I'm going to try this again. There we go. All right, so access blocked. If you see this, it's probably because your URI isn't set right. So you see redirect URI mismatch, but then you're wondering like, oh, well, what is it supposed to be? Click on the error details, and there you'll see the URL that it's trying to use. So let's go fix it. All right, but I'm going to take that port number out because it's going to be random every time, and that means it's going to not work every time. There we go. All right, now I'm going to run this code again and cross my fingers, hope it works. Oh, it's not going to run right now because it's still waiting for me to successfully authenticate. There we go. Nope, highlighted too much there. All right, and for whatever reason, that seems to have just worked again, so that's cool. Now we'll send an email and see if it works. Oh wait, it did work. We already did that. Let's use the app password now. All right, so to use an app password with your personal Gmail account, you'll need to create an app password, and it might not be obvious where to do that. So I found the link, myaccount.google.com/apppasswords. All right, so I got a couple there. So you would just use a descriptive name, Mailozar2. Create. All right, now I got an app password. Now I'm going to delete it because I just showed it to all of you, and I don't trust you. All right, so I have my app password stored in a secret. So the username is going to be your email address. The password is the app password. So I'll load that up and send an email. All right, and nothing special here, just server address, port number, the credential, and that's it. So whether that's a plain text email or an HTML email, it's, I am not going to show you how to make your emails pretty. That is up to you. There's our app password email. Cool. That is the end of email. So let's go to SMS. All right. Let me open up my Twilio account. All right, I'll show you how easy it was to get a proof of concept working with Twilio. So I was just able to create an account, didn't have to provide a credit card or anything, and got free credit. There we go. And it took me there we go. And then it just starts you right out here in this try it out section. So you have a destination phone number. The destination phone number that's showing here, and it's showing a little virtual phone. This is just a, like, if we can send a text message to this little fake phone, and that's neat. But I'll also send a text message to my Google Voice account. And yeah, so you can test it out from the browser. It shows you the curl command to send an SMS. So it's really just to, from, the body, and then basic authentication with your account ID and your token. So that was really, really easy to get started. And let's go back to the code. Make sure I have my secrets. That did not work. All right. So I got a couple of little functions here. There's a function to convert a username and password to basic auth header, and because you got a base 64 encode the username and password, and then my function for sending an SMS. So to, from, body, the account ID, the token, and it's just, this is the PowerShell version of the curl command. And so that was pretty straightforward. And to send an SMS, let me actually log into Google Voice first. There we go. That was the wrong window. There we go. So I'll hit F8. And I probably had some stuff in the terminal that screwed that up. Let's try this again. I forgot to load my functions. There we go. You know that little red mouse button on the keyboard? I'm not going to use the name that everybody else uses for it, but yeah, that's kind of hard to use on this. There we go. And there's my text message. So that went straight to my Google Voice account. So like if you have a need in your business to send SMS messages, or you want to build a tool for, I don't know, round robin after hours notifications or something, like it's relatively easy to build on top of their service. So that's all there is to it for Twilio, at least for SMS. They have lots of other APIs as well for like phones and IVRs and all that stuff, so you can really get creative. But my favorite, and we're getting close to time here, so I'll speed up, is Pushover. So Pushover is a push notification service that, again, you do have to pay for it to use it, but it's a one-time fee. So I found it worth it for my purposes. Let's go ahead and do a little push notification here just as a demo. So I've got the desktop app installed. So this is like, what do you call it? Progressive web app. And it's got notifications enabled. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit F8 again there. And I got it on my phone first, but it should show up here. I didn't get the pop-up for some reason. But there's my push notification, hello from PowerShell. All right, so the send pushover command comes from the joshua.j.ps pushover module. So we can give it a message. We can specify what sound we want to use, provide an attachment. Now, I have a note above. I don't know what I was thinking with the way that I designed the attachment option. So that'll probably change in the future, but at the moment, it accepts a binary array or a byte array. And then their API accepts a file name to, I don't know, describe the attachment. So that's how I attached an image. And you can provide an optional URL for what happens when somebody clicks on it. And then what to title that URL. And then you have your authentication, your token, and your user. So, but it doesn't have to be all that. We can also just do send pushover message hello. So my token is stored in the session, so that's why I didn't have to provide that. And then there's hello from my home lab. All right, let's delete those messages. All right, so neat, you can get push notifications, but what if like it's a really big emergency and you really, really want somebody to pay attention? So what you can do is set up a group subscription so that if you have a group of people who need to get the notification, they can subscribe to receive it on their device, and then you send the notification to the group rather than an individual. And then you can also set the priority. So if you set the priority to emergency, it's going to keep sending that notification until it gets acknowledged. So let me go ahead and send that. I'm going to turn up my volume. All right, so it sent the notification. Right now, I think my retry interval is every 30 seconds. That's the minimum amount of time it's allowed to do that. So every 30 seconds until I acknowledge that I've received that notification, it's gonna keep sending it. And when you use the emergency option, there it is, you get a receipt. So the receipt is just a random string that is associated with that notification that allows you to go back and check what the status is. So I'll go ahead and run that, and I can see that it has not been acknowledged. And I can see the last delivered date. So we know that somebody got it, but nobody's acknowledged it yet. And there it goes again. So if I go in here and acknowledge this notification, and I check the receipt again, I'm going to see it has been acknowledged. I can see the ID of the user who acknowledged it and the name that they gave their device that they acknowledged it on. So you get a little bit of detail about that, which is super handy. Now, this is just for fun. There's a bunch of different sounds that you can use for the notifications, and on your device you can set like the default sound or you can override so that it always makes the same sound on your device, or you can let the sender of the notification control that. So if I do get push over sound, there's a list of the sounds that are supported, and then I'm just going to go ahead and start sending some notifications. All right, so we can see those coming in here. Mechanical, piano bar, that one was a space alarm, cash register. Anyway, you get the point, it's kind of fun. Whew. Wow. Yeah, that is well named. I did not test that one out beforehand. All right, so finally, dead man switch, and I have like 3 minutes, but let's go ahead and check that out. Let me load secrets, get the browser going. All right, so here is my health check that I have set up. Right now I have it set to expect a ping every minute, and if it doesn't receive it, then it is down. There's a grace time that you'll see right here, and I realize that's probably a little small. So you can also adjust the grace time so that, if you run a script that runs every day, but it could run any time within a 2-hour period, you can have some grace so that it doesn't actually, it isn't considered failed until that grace period expires. So right now, it should be failed, in a failed state. There we go. So the last ping was an hour ago. Let's go ahead and send a ping. And a ping is just a GET request to the URL that they give you. So it's incredibly easy. You use PowerShell, you can use curl, you can use whatever you have. There we go. So that notification went to pushover because HealthChecks.io supports pushover as a notification channel. So you can get email notifications from HealthChecks, or you can get pushover notifications, and they support a number of different options. So now my health check is up, and so if I keep running this once a minute, then as far as I'm concerned, everything's happy and running, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't need to get an email every day just to tell me that the thing is running, because this is going to tell me that the thing stopped running. Now let's go to some more advanced options. So if you want to measure how long it takes to run a command, you can do that. So what we're doing is we're calling before our script, we're calling the same URL but /start. I'm going to mute the notifications now. And what that'll do is it says like, okay, your script is running. It hasn't finished, but it's running. And then if it fails, you can do /fail to indicate that, hey, the script finished, but it didn't do what it was supposed to do. So that's also helpful. And if we look at the browser, we can see it took 3 seconds and it failed. Now, if you want more detail, you can include a exit code. So I'll run that. So, and this is just doing it might work, it might fail, it's going to be random. But if it fails, in my catch block, I have a exit code appended at the end of my URL. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to continue. Yep, it just kept working. So finally, if you want to simulate a failure or if something fails and you want some logs to like actually know what happened, you can do a post and include content. So I'll run that. And what I'm doing here is I'm calling invoke rest method to the /fail endpoint, and then I'm including a body with whatever I want. And the method is post. So now if I go in here and look at my last notification, I can see that it took 7 seconds to run, and then here is my error record in JSON format. So I can inspect that and see what happened. And I'm out of time, so thank you.